Hey guys, Mr. Bowman here. Today's learning objective is in yellow and we're learning to translate given parabolas. And what we're going to do to start off with is we're just going to compare some of the parabolas I've got on the right hand side just to explain and to demonstrate what I mean by translate. So translation or translate, it's effectively asking you to move a parabola. And you can do that by moving it up or down, or left or right. And potentially you can merge the two and do both at the same time. So I've got a graph. So this red parabola down here, that is the default x squared parabola, the one that we've been comparing. So what I want us to do is, using the vertex method, I want us to explain how the red parabola has moved to the green parabola. And I also want to explain how the red parabola has been moved to the blue parabola. So let's get our notes going, I suppose. So let's start off with red parabola to blue parabola. And what we're looking for in our description is just some instructions. How much has it moved left or right? How much has it moved up or down? I normally start with up and down because that's the easiest to figure out. So it's been moved up by how many units? 1, 2, 3 units by the looks of it. So we've got 1 unit, 2 units, and then 3 units just up there. So I suppose the instructions are what I like to call them. Instructions are up by 3 units. And then how much has it been moved left or right? Let's have a look. It's just gone to the right by 1. And then right by 1 unit. So that there would be my instructions. I've got them in quote marks just to show you. And that's really just putting that movement into words. Okay, let's have a go at the next one. So let's try to go from the red graph to the green graph. What would those instructions look like? So they would be, so let's have a look. How much has it moved up or down? So it looks like it's just moved down 1. So it's down by 1 unit. And how much has it moved across? So there's 1 unit and 2 units, and that's in the left direction. And then left by 2 units. So what we can do is we can actually visually just inspect the movement and describe it with reference to how much it goes up or down and how much it moves left or right. So if you haven't got this down, please pause the video and get it down. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to pause the video, I'm going to clear our working, and we're going to get into the next extension of this. How does this impact the equations of a given formula? Okay guys, and we're back. I've deleted all our working and our graph, and what I am going to do is I'm just going to recap, well, what was the vertex method formula? Because when we moved the parabolas up and down, then we did refer to the vertex. So that was the vertex method. So the C, that's what controlled what the up and down movement was. And that B, that controlled the left or right movement. And what we need to do is we need to, based on the instructions we're given, we need to change the B and the C values to reflect that up and down movement. And I'll get into some examples. So let's have a look. So we've got an equation. So I'm just going to work with the equation this time. So let's say it's x plus 1 squared minus 2. And let's say I want to move this graph up 1 unit. And I want to move it to the right. No, actually, we'll move it to the left. So we'll move it to the left by 2 units. So we've got to think what's happening here. So we are adding 1 to this C value. So that would be negative 2 plus 1. Well, that's going to become negative 1. So that means our new C value will be negative 1. And the next one is we're moving left 2. And when we move a parabola left, that's the same as saying plus 2 because it's going towards the negative, so it's the opposite. So what we're going to do is we're going to add that. So we're going to go 1 plus the 2, which moves it across, which is going to be 3. So that means our b value is going to be positive 3. And we can wrap up, and our conclusion would be the new translated formula. So that would be x plus 3 squared minus 1. And we can see it's been moved upward. It's been moved up 1 to negative, from negative 2 to negative 1, and it's been moved left 2 from an exit from negative 1 to negative 3. Okay, let's get into another example. So I'll change pen color for this. We'll use the pink pen. So let's have a go. Question 2, we've got another example. So y is equal to x minus 4 squared plus 3. And I want to move this down by 4 units. And I want to move it to the right by 3 units. So we'll use bigger numbers this time. So let's start off with our c value. So we're moving it down, which is negative 4. So what we're going to do is we're going to go 3 minus 4. That's going to get us to negative 1. So that means our c value of the translated parabola will be negative 1. We're then going to look at the 4. So the 4 is currently, the negative 4 means it's at positive 4. And we're at positive 4 and we're trying to move it to the right 3. So that 3, moving it to the right, is actually negative 3. So we're going to go negative 4 minus 3 is going to equal to negative 7. So that means b is going to be equal to negative 7. And what we can do then is we can write our final translated parabola. So y is going to be equal to x minus 7 squared minus 1. And just over there, we've got our final formula. And there was the one from the first example as well. So hopefully this makes sense. What we're doing is we're thinking about how the translation instructions, which is the movement up or down and left and right, how they impact the b and the c in our equations. So what I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to pause the video and we're going to get back to some graphs to see what we can do and see how this translation works with some graphs. So that was equations only. Let's now shift to graphs. Okay, guys, we're back, and on the left, we've got 2 graphs with 2 set of instructions. And what we're going to do is we're going to find the equation of the translated parabola. So the first step for both of these equations would be to find the equation of the original graph, and then we're going to move the equation of the original graph to find the equation of the translated. So let's start off with the blue graph. Our equation, as always, we are using the vertex form for this type of question. The c value, that relates to how much it's been moved up or down. So it looks like it's gone up 1, 2, 3. So that means c is equal to 3. And the b value, it's gone across to positive 1, which means b is the opposite, negative 1. And we can plug both of those in to get our equation, plus 3. So that's our starting point. We now need to find a coordinate and then solve for a. So I'm going to use the y-intercept just over there. And at that point, the coordinate is 0, 4. And that means x is equal to 0 and y is equal to 4. And we're going to put both of those numbers into our equation. So y, we just said that was equal to 4. So we're going to go 4 is equal to a of 0 minus 1 squared plus 3. Well, 0 minus 1 is negative 1. Negative 1 squared is 1. And 1 times a is a. So it's going to be a plus 3 equals 4. 4 minus 3 equals a. And that means a is going to be equal to 1. And that means our formula, y is going to be equal to x minus 1 squared plus 3. And just note, there's no a value in front because anything times 1, well, it doesn't change, it's the same thing. So we've got the equation. We now want to use the instructions to move this. So the first instruction is this relates to the c value. That's going to be moved down, which is -2. So 3 minus 2 is going to be equal to 1. It's also going to be moved left by 4. Because we're going to the negative direction, that means it's going to be positive 4. So we're going to go -1 plus 4, or apologies, I got those wrong around. +1 minus 4, and that's -3. So that's been moved across. So it's gone -1, -2, -3, -4. Oh, no, apologies. I did have that right to start off with. So it's -1 plus 4 gets us to +3. There we go. So yeah, so we just to emphasize, because I did make a mistake, we are moving towards the negative direction, which makes it a +4. Okay, and then we can put that in and make those adjustments. That means x plus 3 squared plus 1 is the formula of our translated parabola. So very cool. So I'm going to change pen color. Let's get into the green question, and hopefully I don't make silly mistakes during that process. So the green question, question 2. First step, we do need to find the equation of the original parabola. So y is equal to ax plus b squared plus c. And we can see our vertex is just over here, down the very bottom. That means it's been moved down -1. So that means c will be equal to -1. And we can see it's gone 1, 2 to the left. It's ended up at -2, which means c will be the +2 of that. So b. So b is equal to +2. So we've now got y is equal to a plus 2 squared minus 1. So we've got all those. The next step, let's try to find a. So we need to find a random point on our graph that will help us. And I can see one of the x-intercepts just over there really clearly. And at that point, that would be -3, 0. So at that value, x will be -3 and y will be equal to 0. So we'll put both of those points into the graph or into our equation. So 0 is equal to a -3 plus 2 squared minus 1. We're going to take the -1 to the other side. So that's going to become +1. And that's going to become this stuff here, -3 plus 2, that's -1. -1 squared is +1. +1 times a is just a. So straight away, we've gone to a equals 1, just like our previous equation. So that means it's not a skinny or a wider parabola, it's just a regular looking parabola. And we can put that in for our final equation of the parabola. So that means y is going to be equal to x plus 2 squared minus 1. So that's the original equation. Now let's have a look at the translation instructions, which I'm circling. It's been moved up 3. So that what we're going to do here, -1, well, it's -1 plus 3 now, and that's going to become +2. And the next step, we're now going to look at the b. So it's been moved to the right by 2. And to the right by 2, well, that's moving it to positive, which means it's a negative value. So that's actually going to be 2 minus 2, which is going to be equal to 0. So that's actually going to end on the y-axis. So what we're going to do, that's going to be equal to x plus 0 squared plus 2. And we can simplify this part here because plus 0 doesn't change it. That means y is going to be equal to x squared plus 2. And that would be the equation of our translated green parabola if we moved it up 3 into the right by 2. So hopefully you found this video on translating parabolas useful. This is a very tricky skill, and it is all the way up to the excellence type questions. If you haven't, make sure you go back, watch the video, pause, get the examples and any keywords down. Now let's get into heaps of practice.